What a great way to close out a fantastic week here on the Real Kyper and Bourne show with a Toronto Maple Leaf game day. Wherever you're watching and listening, Sportsnet 590 The Fan, Sportsnet 360, Sportsnet Plus. Glad you're aboard. Nick Kypreos, the lovely, the talented Gord Stellick, Sammy McKee, Derek Brandeo, and Jake Schultz, the Maple Leafs in the Big Apple tonight to take on the Rangers at the world's most famous arena, Gord Stellick.
You think it's the world's most famous? I guess.
How do we measure that?
I know. Because they call it themselves. It's like Detroit calling themselves Hockey Town.
It's pretty cool.
Oh, it's New York, right? So, I mean, everything goes on there, but everything goes on everywhere. Maybe because it doesn't have a sponsor. Maybe because it's still Madison Square Garden. It's not, the China Club's Madison Square Garden or something like that,
So as long as you label something first, it doesn't really matter, because I've officially labeled the Real Kyper and Bourne show the fastest 2 hours in hockey.
Yeah, I like it.
Right?
I like it.
No, nobody can claim that now.
No, they shouldn't. They shouldn't.
I do think there's a lot of, false claims from a lot of different organizations about this and about that. But I do think that Madison Square Garden is the most famous arena in the world.
Most famous city in the world.
Yeah, like it's, it's
Paris and
yeah.
Come on, there's a few others, but New York City.
What's the big one in O2 Arena? There's a big one in London, England. I know that's another famous arena, but I think this is a big one.
But you have to. You were talking about expensive. You were kidding Craig Berube yesterday, who I'm sure is living comfortably in Toronto.
I think he's doing okay.
Yes, but I remember Darren Pang when he was part of our, he'd come in and he just wasn't complaining, but just how expensive it is.
Yes.
And he's coming from Chicago. It's pretty expensive in Chicago too. But anyway, as I mentioned, New York's a place that you really need a lot of money, like to really live there well. Do you not agree? It's a tough city.
It's a playpen too, right?
Yeah.
So it's just not enough to live there and work there. You gotta get out there and soak it all in. There's a lot of pressure to go out in New York and have a good time, and it ain't cheap.
No.
I'm sure you have lots of experience in going out in New York and having a good time, Kyper.
I don't recall ever stepping anywhere. I just rode coattails.
But do you remember coming back from bars and you can't tell American money apart when you've had a few pops and you're in the back of the taxi?
I don't think I was ever that bad, but
well,
I'm
that
sure
bad.
you.
It's dark. It's dark,
Okay,
and the bills
all right.
are similar. When I went to work at Madison Square Garden, I lived at 91st and York Avenue, which wasn't a smart spot. It was the Upper West Side, and that's on the Upper East Side. That's on the Lower West Side. So I did not have a car. I took a shuttle bus, caught the subway at 86th and Lexington, and they have two subways. They got an express below. They got on the same thing. It's like having the Young Line, whatever. So they got it stops, whatever. Then below is the express one. And you'd wait and you'd run up or down to get on that subway, right? And then you get off at, where'd I get off at 42nd or whatever it would be, and take the N or the R train to Madison Square Garden. And I'd be saying, I used to be driving down Maple Leaf Gardens and parking right beside, the building, you know? And I'm just there. And in Toronto, they say don't walk between the, well, now it's all different. But remember, don't walk between the subway cars. Slam, just coming both ways at you. So anyway,
and you've lived to tell about it.
I've lived to tell about it. You know, it was an interesting experience. A fabulous city to visit, though.
And a fantastic Off the Rails Friday as well. Doug MacLean will join us at the top of the hour. That's always worth the price of entertainment alone.
Right.
We also have, in about 30 minutes, Sam, a little Leaf line.
Yeah, we're back big time.
We're back.
There's been a couple weeks off with the Canada stuff, and we did the Canada line sort of last week at this time. We did one, but this is Leafs related. People are back. It was it's a lot of good calls, so get excited about that.
Looking forward to that. In the meantime, we tee up the Toronto Maple Leafs and the New York Rangers. I'm also on the telecast as well tonight. Looking forward to that with my good friend Elliot Friedman and David Amber. So, don't go anywhere for the next
I sounded lame the way I promoted
6 hours.
I really meant it, though. I go, that'll be great. It's like I'm reading from a cue card. No, I like you and Elliot together. But now, I'm going to judge this. But, Sammy, when Kyper has TV, does he mail it in on radio sometimes? That's what I want to find. No, the next 2 hours, because, we were at Sportsnet. He was Kyper.
Yeah.
like backlit. Let's get Kyper on the set. And El Gordo was, oh, hey, why don't you go to that third desk over there with Rob Falls and Charles Nelson Riley? Whatever. And if there's a natural disaster in one of the games and Kyper needs to get some more makeup, whatever, we'll throw to your panel. We'll throw to your panel.
And a match game reference to boot.
Just one.
Fantastic. Hey, and all kidding aside, you could have easily mailed it in because you've been also working on your morning show on
NHL Morning Skate,
radio, Sirius Radio.
Yeah.
And, the whole time I'm like, God, I hope Gord leaves some good stuff for the Real Kyper and Bourne show this week.
I've done it so far.
Yes, you have.
Okay, we're challenging each other today. We're challenging each other.
I have caught you in the morning, and you stunk, and I really appreciate it. Really, really appreciate it.
I will say, though, it's a very, not to get too inside baseball here, but doing what you do on the broadcast is a much different animal than what you do here, right? Like, it's quicker, you have to be more concise, it's less drawn out thoughts. It's a much different animal than it is doing this show, and we just get to talk about bull crap for
I'll tell you that it sucks compared to what we do. It does.
It's harder.
It's totally different.
Yeah.
You only got a certain amount of time to kind of wrap it up.
Yeah.
With a introduction, a middle, and a bow at the end of what you're saying, and then it moves down the assembly line, and everybody goes, and we're going to commercial break or we're throwing it. This is real.
Well,
this is the real stuff right here.
It's real. So we talked. I didn't talk you into taking this job. We just talked before, and I said, Kippy, you're going to love this because you're going to be able to bring back your personality, whatever. And that's what I've really enjoyed on radio, and then TV. It's all the time. So I did the Hockey Day in Canada once, right? There's 5 finalists. So I was in West Kelowna, and Bobby Holik was my hockey. He was a good guy.
Yep.
So between the first game and the second game, the first Hockey Day in Canada game went into overtime. So now before the second game, they go, okay, we're going to be quick. We're supposed to do a minute each. They go, here's the one place, here's the other place, here's the other, all 5. And I'm last in West Kelowna. And supposed to get a minute with Bobby Holik, right? And then all of a sudden, they go, oh, no, just get rid of the other guy. We got 30-second hits each. So anyway, I go, okay. And then they start with Colleen Jones in the East. Yeah. She goes 8 minutes. And she's got her person on, whatever. And they go somewhere else. Now, at least this person didn't have the, whatever, and on. And I got like 5 seconds, And all these people are behind me, and they're pissed off, whatever. I go, what, so that happens in TV.
And listen, TV does wonderful things for wonderful people, and can get you a good suit.
You got a great one on today.
But you definitely have a different beast to get your point across, or to your point, show a little personality, or just have some fun. And this is what we're doing unscripted.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And everything's about a presentation and a package on television.
So you and Ellie, you're good. Again, I sound like I'm stroking you because they love to have genuine banter. And I love panels that you can tell it's not just, hey, Nick, that's really funny, Hey, Sammy, whatever. They suck, right? Versus you can tell the ones, like on the NBA side, Shaquille O'Neal and that.
They're fantastic.
It's great, right? And I'm, there's a lot of hockey, but there's other ones that you're watching. Anyway.
Okay.
You're the gold standard. You guys are the gold standard.
Stop it.
No.
What do we get out of tonight in terms of storylines? Because Ryan Reaves is in. We know what Matt Rempe means to the New York Rangers. Ryan has not played, I think, in close to 4 weeks, a month. Like, it's been a while here, Gord, but got to think it's the right move putting him back in tonight.
Yeah. A couple of reasons. And one is we just talked about New York. In all seriousness, and chatting with Mike Johnson about it, that couple off days. You know what I mean? Like, kind of nice. They've had a few wins. I'm not saying they're painting the town red, and certainly Craig Berube says everyone's responsible nowadays, but Rangers have something to play for. They're in a dogfight for the playoffs. And you kind of wonder, might this be one of those where the Leaf team, the best Leaf team doesn't show up? Whatever. And maybe Ryan Reaves will help. I know there's Rempe, but maybe give a little bit of spark that way. That this is kind of a gap in the, that we may need that.
All right, let's go to head coach Craig Berube on why he's putting Ryan Reaves in tonight's contest.
I think Rempe over there, obviously, he's an effective player in my opinion. He's physical. He's a hard guy to handle. So I just wanted to get Revo in there.
Did you watch their fight from last season?
I did see it a while ago. I haven't watched it in a while. Maybe this afternoon I'll pull it up.
What do you remember about that?
He's no dummy here. Ryan Reaves takes out one of his players, and you don't have Ryan Reaves on the bench.
You have Rempe takes out one of your players, you mean?
Sorry, Rempe takes somebody out on the
Who did he hit again? Who was it? Was it Labushkin?
How many guys?
Labushkin. He hit and hurt Labushkin in that game.
Go down the list, including his suspension, including those first few games that he played in his career against New Jersey Devils. This guy can hurt people, if not maybe potentially end someone's career.
Yeah, he's a great hockey story. Like, I love his genuineness. He's, for whatever reason, he's hardly got any goals, but they've always been big ones.
Yeah.
And then he started with the outdoor game and that. So there's a great part to his story, but also there's really a lot of carelessness about the way he hits. You worry about him in fights, and the one or two times that he taunted, going out and all that. And I know the range, like he's not moved up the Ranger echelon like they thought he would, right? They started using Johnny Brzezinski a little bit more and guys like that because he can't really corral it or hasn't been able to corral it.
I wonder too, and the recklessness that you speak of, like it's got to be hard at 6'8", 6'9", to still trying to find your ways with your body and the balance and all of that. And while it may be simple for us to accuse him of being reckless, but when you're totally on board to try to be that physical specimen that the team is asking you to do on every given shift, and you're at times overextending yourself, man, it's got to be tough, because I just look at him and sometimes I'm like, the balance isn't there, and he's throwing himself out there, and of course it can look really reckless.
Yeah.
He's just a big guy. Sometimes it looks like he's Bambi on ice.
No, you're right. Like the Mad Stork or something like that.
To your point, Ryan Reaves, the last game he played was February 4th against Calgary. So we are coming up on almost a month since he's played a game. I wasn't really. Were you thinking about Reaves versus Rempe before this morning? Like, it wasn't a story like you think of last year when they came to Scotiabank Arena. It was a road show.
That's all everyone talked about.
It was like what was the basketball player? The guy, it was like Linsanity at that point, where it was like this huge story across the league. And it kind of happened on Saturday night with him and Reaves. Will they, won't they? And it ended up happening in the tie game late in that game. I didn't think there was much of a story heading into this. I wasn't thinking about it. But then he says it. And I think inadvertently, he's kind of created some anticipation for these two guys squaring off tonight.
All right. We'll get a comment from Gord as well from myself. But let's go to Craig Berube, clip 3 on Rempe, and then we'll come out of it.
Well, I mean, a kid coming up like that in the league and what he's done and what he's trying to accomplish and trying to make a name for himself. He's like I said, he's an effective guy that way. And I think, when you're going against a guy like Reaves and Toronto Maple Leafs, there's going to be some hype for sure on it, I don't expect much hype tonight or anything, just go play. And if something happens, it happens, but... Revo in the lineup maybe deters him from being as physical as he has been, or their whole team for that fact. And that's the reason I went with him tonight.
It's almost as if the storyline kind of snuck up on us. Maybe it's still the after reality of getting back to work after 4 Nations, or maybe it's just the fact that we weren't even sure if Rempe would be in the lineup against the Leafs, and who found out first, right?
Yeah.
So, but once it's there, it's a story.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he doesn't play a lot, Matt Rempe, so I think that's why people kind of half forgot he's there. But just to Sammy's point, the timing of it all when he came last year, just that you thought, and then I don't know if they still owe him because of the injury. I don't know, but also you got the Rangers do need 2 points. I think he's looking to, I believe, looking just to give them a spark. I don't know. Does it help? And when they fought, Sammy, like the game was like it was
late in the game.
It wasn't at the right point in the game.
Yeah,
that's the other part. And so Ryan Reaves engaging in a fight, is he letting the Rangers get a spark against a better Toronto Maple Leaf team? You know what I mean? Is that the deal, or Ryan Reaves being the sheriff in town just to kind of go like Tom Wilson could have been for Team Canada, for example? Just that presence out there. Is that the story?
He's coming off his season high in ice time, Rempe, when they played against the Islanders. He played 11:30. He had a goal in that game. He was a +3 in that game. So
wow.
I guess maybe that's the game that Brube watched, that
Yeah.
he's an effective player. But I think this did sneak up on us, and I think him saying this stuff this morning is sort of created a little bit of an anticipation for this.
I am one to not necessarily think that a fight needs to happen just for the sake of it. A lot of things can happen that isn't known to the viewer at home, like what things might have been said during a warm-up or what things have been said on opening face-off draw, and if push comes to shove and then it escalates. There's a lot of stuff that behind the scenes that doesn't tell the story of something that may happen. But I'm a little bit with you, and not to go back to Four Nations, but like, the thought that the Tkachuk brothers were going to get a jump on Canada. Like, where does that fit in the storyline of the game and all of that? Still questionable, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Still questionable.
Yeah.
But is that where we're going back to?
Well, we don't have the opening like we had in Montreal. Okay, so you had that off-the-charts opening, the booing of the anthem, that I think for Team USA.
But nobody really ever said, listen, they booed our anthem, we're going to come out and kick your ass in the first
but to me, that was part of it. Whatever may be.
But nobody went down that path or admitted it.
No.
It was just like, let's do it.
So in this case tonight, yeah, it's not, because the Rangers' story has been one of kind of chaos this year. Great start, then they plundered, all kinds of disharmony off the ice. Finally Jacob Trouba is basically forced out of town. Like they almost like bully the players to finally try to get them to acquiesce for a trade. And you thought they're going to do something drastic, and then they've kind of righted the ship.
Scratch Kreider at one point, traded for JT
the
Miller.
Shesterkin contract, and it wasn't Swayman, but you can compare the distraction of it as a comparable. And I'm not sure, Shesterkin is anywhere near his capabilities still.
Not lately.
Right?
Yeah.
So that hasn't been as much of a factor as we thought at the beginning of the year on how good the Rangers will be. I look at Panarin and Trocheck and Lafreniere, and I don't think they've scored a goal since the first week in February as well. So there's a lot of things going against the Rangers still.
Yeah, and Zibanejad, I know Fox is hurt, but they've had off seasons, right? Just and what the Leafs have tonight is what they had the other night against Boston. Now, they haven't played the Rangers forever in the playoffs. I think it goes back to the 1970s, but you got a chance to help eliminate two teams that very much everyone thought would be in the playoffs, in Boston and the New York Rangers. Boston lost to the Islanders last night. Like, it's just kind of, they're kind of just not making any traction. And the Rangers are making some traction, but Detroit and Columbus are as well. So all of a sudden, this traction the Rangers are met, if it stalls, and tonight would be you're losing at home, that would be part of a stall, then all of a sudden, two teams you thought were going to be in aren't in because of games like tonight.
Another big storyline is the Toronto Maple Leaf blue line minus Chris Tanev tonight. We'll come out of Craig Berube's comments on his D pair and discuss. Clip one.
I didn't want to split up the other two pairs. They've been playing together here for a bit, so we'll just put Myers in there and just keep the other pairs together.
Don't sound so excited.
That's Riley and OEL, and Benoit and Timmins stay intact, and McCabe obviously goes with Philip Myers.
Yeah.
No,
just like he gets right to the chase.
Which is not. He didn't sound.
Sounds like he wrote him on a napkin.
Yeah.
And like whatever, keeping it simple, right? Just keeping it simple.
Don't ever think meat.
Yeah, I think so. Just and giving his logic why thought the other pair staying together was more important.
Yeah, I just you look at that decor with that. I guess any decor across the league, you subtract your best guy, they're going to look a little bit thinner. But you do look at this one, you're like, yeah, they really do need to add some depth to it. When you look at when Tanev goes out, you automatically you're Philip Myers on your second pairing. It's a little bit scary in terms of depth to me.
Now Fox is out there. He's the only one, right?
Fox is out, and Keandre Miller is a game time decision.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I mean, that's even though they both have had not their best season, still you missed two from the Rangers side as well. Obviously significant.
All right. I see a couple of clips out of you from Matthews, Nylander. Where do you want to go?
I actually want to go to the goaltending one because friend of the show, Josh Cloak, asked Berube about his goaltending and how he's going to handle it looking ahead towards the playoffs, and he actually had a pretty interesting answer for. So clip 6, please.
I think going into the playoffs, it's normally one guy that's going to take control of it and go and see where he's at, and sometimes you got to make switches, which I've done in the past. I mean, I remember I started Husso against Minnesota in the playoffs. I thought that he was the better goalie down the stretch, and he played the first 2 games, and then Binnington came in. We won the series, and Binnington played until he got hurt against Colorado and played extremely well, got hurt, so Husso had to go in. So there's always things you're going to have to change, but I think, going into the playoffs, you want one guy being ready to take it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
For me.
There hasn't been, Cam Ward and Martin Gerber way back when. I'm trying to think, and again, a lot of it's predicated by injury, like he talked about. Vancouver last year probably was the one, that depth goal. But it just seems more and more depth goaltending during the season. And I really think we're going to see more depth goaltending required in this playoff.
The only thing that I now think about is with a little over 20 games to go, will we see small snippets of a decent stretch for Stolarz?
Well, Stolarz goes against.
Yeah, he goes against tonight, but because
sick.
Wall's not feeling well.
Yeah.
So is this the window for Stolarz to get a bit of a runway so he can have some sample sizes going into the first round?
Well,
would you like to see that if he speaks of one guy running hot here?
Yeah, I'm big on both of them, but but Boston had that, and they kind of said, okay, once the playoff starts, going to even Steven. And look at Vasilevsky, 9 starts in a row, and they're playing their best hockey. And people talk about load management or getting a break or whatever. He's playing great.
And he looks like he's kind of back.
Yeah. And he kind of says, if I'm back, I'm like Peyton Manning. Okay, I don't give the ball to someone else as the quarterback, whatever, basically. Now, Toronto's situation's a little bit different. You won't have someone run with it like that. But I don't think it's a bad idea at all. Hey, I'm fine with 50-50. But if you start leaning towards someone, go 70-30, give them 4 games in a row, whatever it may be. Try to emulate what it would be, that kind of grind in the playoffs. Maybe we're overthinking it, but I think the big thing with the coach and the goaltender coach and that, goaltenders are different, and they're different as well amongst each others. So about, what is the right way to handle them or the best way to handle them and not.
Yeah, it's just I was surprised to hear him say that because I don't think he's the type of guy that goes out there and says in the media, like, oh, I'm going to send a message through the media here or whatever. He got asked a question, he just answered it. But he hasn't given any indication at all that he would want one guy to run with it at all this year, right? Like, it's been a pretty consistent 50-50 when both guys have been healthy. It's just, if you're going to continue to do 50-50, then one guy's going to play the whole playoffs. How are you going to get a guy ready to push here? I was surprised he said it.
Now, as a player, my first inkling to think about being in the shoes of Wall and Stolarz, would that have been reiterated? Guys, listen, at some point, come the playoffs, one guy gets hot, I'm running with him. Would they have known that, or would they have learned that through this clip?
Yeah.
That's a great question.
This weekend.
No idea.
Because all of a sudden, if I'm Joseph Wall, I'm like, damn, bad time to get a cold.
Yeah, my cough's starting to feel a little better here.
Am I going to get the net next week?
Yeah.
Right? Am I coming back? When am I coming back?
Stolarz knows firsthand about having a real solid regular season with Florida, but Bobrovsky being the guy, that someone else took it, ran with it, and happened to win a Stanley Cup. So I'm sure he would relish that opportunity to do the same. But yeah, I don't it's a harmless clip. It's kind of like when Mike Sullivan said Quinn Hughes is coming. So that really helped us the second off day because they're looking for stuff to say. And he goes, Quinn Hughes is coming?
So what?
Like, that's not Elliott saying that. That's
yeah.
Mike's, and he was wrong.
Yeah.
He was wrong, but just kind of, and just
there
about,
was a strange one.
Yeah, that was a real strange one. But this one about, he's done in the past, but he also says, I'm not unafraid to make a switch that, people forget that Ville Hossa was used in some playoff games.
Yeah. What do you like out of Matthews or Nylander? Will we get an update on Nylander?
We do. He's playing tonight. Apparently, totally fine. So,
is it short? Can we hear it?
Yeah.
Let's hear the Nylander.
Clip 5, please.
Business as usual. He feels good. So he something happened in the game, and he didn't feel he could go out there in overtime. So that's all that was. But he's 100% today.
He didn't feel. It's not like we didn't, or the trainers, or the doctor. It was he. We're only guessing here, but like, does that not sound like maybe he got conked in the head again?
Oh, so you're going back to the headache thing. Well, but then usually don't you err on the side of caution about missing games? I don't know. We're guessing here.
I know we're guessing 100%. We're
Feels
guessing.
like he wouldn't be playing tonight. I agree with Gord if that was the case.
Would it does it lend more to like a wrist injury or a finger injury because his glove was still off and now he's feeling much better?
Probably.
Slamming your finger in the bench doors? I don't know.
Jammed it, got hit with a puck. Who knows?
Yeah.
But
well, it's good he's back. Unfortunately,
Right.
Craig Berube told us yesterday Chris Tanev won't play tonight, but then he didn't offer much. He kind of says, I believe it's day to day, but he doesn't know. He says, I'm not the doctor, but we really hope it's day to day.
So the one funny clip I wanted to play. So Brayden Schenn last night plays his 1,000th game in a win against the Washington Capitals. And
Which was extremely heavily scouted.
Yeah, a few scouts in the building, I'm sure. And then I think it was Masters this morning asked Berube about Brayden Schenn and, if he had got in touch with him. And this is the clip 7 on Brayden Schenn.
I congratulate him today. I love that player. I love the guy. He's a superhuman being. And, 1,000 games, a lot of games in the league. He's a dedicated player. I always say that guys that can play that long are dedicated to the game. They do all the right things throughout the summer, game in and game out, preparing, and he's a very prepared player, and looks after his body and looks after himself and loves the game. He's a hockey nerd. He just loves the game, and so it was great to see him get 1,000 games, and I'm very happy.
Doug Armstrong needs to file tampering charges right there on Craig Berube.
He also delivers food to my mom.
Player.
He also, takes my dog for a walk, and he also does this for me. Like, oh my God.
Well, hey, just say,
yeah,
go get him.
Well, and he played best under Craig Berube, right? Brayden Schenn did. And then the other, Ron Wilson got fined once. He was kidding, but on this station when it wasn't July 1st yet, and he goes, I told Berkey, go get those Sedins.
Right.
Even they were not going to get the Sedins, he got fined for saying that on the Fan. You remember that? Yeah. So whatever. So that's one thing Craig Berube's careful about. Would love to have him on our team. No, didn't say any of that. But basically, that's the longest answer he gave. Every other answer was about 1 second. This is the longest.
There's about there's 3/4 of the roster right now going. He's never said anything like that about me, and I'm on his team now.
Brayden Schenn's Brayden Schenn's going, I'm going to live a long time, but he's going to do my eulogy.
I mean, who is more effusive in their praise, Brad Marchand of Team USA or Berube of Brayden Schenn?
Yeah.
So, you hear that clip and you're like, I don't know if I'm overthinking this. That's what I do. I overthink. But I'm sure Treliving doesn't love that clip when he's trying to negotiate with Doug Armstrong and, you see out in the news right now, our friend Andy Strickland saying that the parts are there.
Can you read Andy Strickland? Because Andy Strickland covers the St. Louis Blues and probably as tied in as anybody with that organization. He had an interesting tweet today.
The tweet reads, where am I going to find it here? Sorry, I had it in front of me. Did I lose it? Maybe Jeopardy music here. Toronto has the pieces to make a deal for Brayden Schenn. But as of now, they haven't put a package together to make it work. Told at this point, deal with the Maple Leafs is unlikely. Could change, but as of now, doubtful.
So,
and
that little message sending.
Totally. Like a lot of the message sending, I said yesterday, we could use, I don't like artificial intelligence, but we could almost use it because the same quotes come out about, no kidding if it's a good deal. You'll make a good deal. You'll buy a house or a car or clothing. if it's a good deal. So I don't. What he said is harmless. And Brad Treliving and Doug Armstrong are pros as far as negotiating goes.
For Schenn, you would think it would, whatever the package is, it would have to include one of Cowan or Minton. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and talking to Jason yesterday, how do you pronounce his last name?
Ukkola.
That Easton Cowan's like this man of mystery. Easton Cowan was the most untouchable of prospects out there, and
but
in a year.
But that's it's typical of Toronto media to always pick one guy that they follow.
Well, no, it's not Toronto media, but to your point, absolutely. Like whatever, you got to stick with what you feel, what your eyes say, and and I liked what I saw. Whatever. I mean, it seems around the World Junior thing, just a lot of things went south. It just unfortunately was a bad World Junior, one of the worst World Junior experiences. So, I mean, I still think he's a great prospect. It looked like he was almost as good a prospect picked in the first round as, and they got him in the Rasmus Sandin trade too. I mean, that's a nice one that you move a piece like that, get a first round pick later first round pick and get him. But to answer your question, yes, but he's just the big mystery, and I'm curious what the Leafs never mind what other people think, what the Leafs actually think as far as their different prospects go.
Yeah, I am hesitant to trade Cowan or Minton in that package, but it's not going to, I mean, I also would have been hesitant however many years ago to trade Nick Robertson for Sam Bennett. So, you deal with the prospects and you get in love with them and you think that they're going to be the greatest player ever. And a lot of times you hold on too long, they lose value, all this stuff. It's scary for Leaf fans, and I think there's a lot of Leaf fans out there that really are attached to Cowan. The local, being in the OHL, playing for the Knights. Like there's a big connection to him, I feel like, and it's scary. But when push comes to shove, I think the Leafs have an excellent chance this year to go deeper than they ever have, and you got to do what you got to do.
And if I'm not mistaken, it's a no move clause, correct, with Schenn, so he would be handpicking the coach that he won a Stanley Cup with.
Like, you think he'd want to come here?
In a Canadian market like Toronto would, for me, I don't know if there's a better option for him.
Yeah. I think during your career, and you dealt with so many players, that it's even the ones that would rather stay in Columbus or whatever, most would say, man, I'd like time in the Apple, whether it's the Big Apple, the Toronto Big Apple, But yeah, so Sammy, you're right in the sense but the fact it's out there, not being shut down, because otherwise it'd be shut down on St. Louis's side. That no, he's got to, then you're going through Matt Sundin's situation again, that he didn't want to go anywhere, and it got talked about forever, and he got vilified and all that. So so there seems to be a meeting of the minds about that kind of deal. And keep in mind, you could not give up a better prospect than Nick Suzuki going to Montreal, but it showed the Vegas Golden Knights, if you're in that mindset, okay, if you're going for the big kahuna, then you got to go. You got to be all in. And you can look right now, who's better, Max Pacioretty or Nick Suzuki, whatever. They won a Stanley Cup with that kind of mentality, okay? And there's an element of that. If you want to get to that last step, it's what you got to do in some cases.
Right now, it's a no-trade clause, and then it's a modified one on July 1st, 2025, where the player submits a 15
No, right now
trade.
it's a no move.
Right now, according to cap wages, it's a no-trade clause.
Okay, do they mention how many teams?
No, just the
or
only
complete no trade.
I think complete no trade.
Okay,
that's I mean,
yeah,
to
it's
my,
the same
that's
difference.
My ability. Yeah,
right now it would be the same difference. The other option is clearing him on waivers, and that won't happen. So we know it's for Schenn to decide where he wants to go. Now, if they do get Brayden Schenn, does that shut down the speculation that John Tavares has a $7 million per year times 3 contract somewhere waiting for him?
Well, it's funny. We mentioned the quiet line that John Tavares said he didn't watch the overtime of the Canada-USA, kind of saying, hey, you know what? I probably should have got more consideration. I was the captain, went to the World Championships last year. Maybe did that predicated on thinking he's going to get a better opportunity. So now, and he's a pro. Like that guy's a pro.
Yeah.
Almost too much of a pro in some ways. Very focused. I remember when we came back after from COVID, and the season started. What did it start in January? And we had the divisions, and we went crazy about the blue-white game. Like the blue-white inter-squad game was on TV and everything, and Tavares was getting interviewed, and he goes, well, when I got up and I'm on the white team, like he talked like he was on the he's getting interviewing the white team versus the blue. Yeah, and that game was lame. But anyway, so I respect that. But he's a pro. But then all of a sudden he's not. You read it and you kind of go, okay, there's so many bodies here. There's so much money to go around. There's a body that's kind of where I feel I'm slotted to be. There's kind of money that I feel I'm slotted.
I wonder how it would affect him a little bit.
I mean, I think you'd have to be a robot, and sometimes I wonder if he is or not, but I think you'd have to be a robot for it not to affect you. You see that guy come in,
or, hey, if he's one step closer to me winning a Stanley Cup, then let's win it, and then we'll see how things go.
Well, and
that's the way I hope everybody's thinking, not just JT.
And I'm not trying to be negative about another playoff bust, but another playoff bust, then all of a sudden you're looking at hypothetically Schenn and Tavares and a lot of things differently. Because I was at a pre-COVID, just before COVID, so that would be like 5 years ago, right? At a corporate function with Brendan Shanahan. We kind of did, actually it was the milk one. They got I must have done a good job because the milk's now on the sweaters, right? So they're like 1,000 milk guys. And we're just chatting about and Brendan was very forthcoming. He had some fun things like about when Arizona tried to bluff them, they were going to take Mitch Marner, when they took Strome and Leafs guy. Anyway, but then someone brought up the story again. What do you do again if the same old thing in the playoffs? And he said, I know it's not the sexy thing, but you got to believe in it, go at it again. Well, that changed. That changed last year too, with Keith Pelly. And I said, no. So if we have another one again, like a first round, then you're kind of like, not back to the drawing board, but boy, oh boy. You can't accept that answer again. Just like last year, they said you couldn't.
You're thinking about getting the chalk and out of the drawer for the drawing board if that's the case.
I thought you were doing a corner thing.
Yeah,
you doing?
The chalk goes on the floor, buddy.
Oh, sure, we can do that. We can do that too if you guys want to go there. We should break because we got a lot of calls.
Okay, all right. Leaf line coming up. Sammy's promised us he's got some doozies. That more when we return to Real Kyper and Bourne. Off the Rails Friday continues. At the top of the hour, we'll welcome in Doug MacLean, former NHL president, GM, and head coach. A week before trade deadline, I'm sure he's got a ton to get off his swimming chest.
His trunks.
Is he in the pool right now as we speak?
Probably. A week at this very time, we will know the fate of everybody in the NHL.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, Sammy, what do you got for us?
I got lots today. I can't remember all the. I can do this one. How about we go to unnamed from Etobicoke?
Hey, Kyper, Bourne. It's 66 scores from Nova Scotia. Okay, I'm from Etobicoke, but Sammy loves to get everybody else on except from Etobicoke and High Park. But here I am. I'd love to talk about Sammy. Continue to bring up baseball references. That's okay. We'll let it go. We'll talk to Blake and Barker or whatever their names are later. Kyper, why is it that we don't have a Tucker, a Roberts, those guys? We need a couple of those guys. And then we will raise Lord Stanley, Kyper. Thank you.
All right. Unknown from
Sammy, no more baseball.
Etobicoke.
Yeah.
I do favor the people that call from different places.
Those guys are, we all know what they've meant to Leaf fans over the years, right? But they're hard to find. And it just seems to me that there is this window, Gord, of style of play that has made them less desirable because of the fact that there are not that many out there anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Is the pendulum kind of swung back a little bit? Does it go back to last week where we saw three guys willing to do it? Does that leave players that are on the cusp of going to play junior hockey or college hockey to go, hey, I should be more like that. Maybe I should prepare myself to go to play in the NHL with more of that style. I don't know, but can it swing back to those guys?
Well, you got Slavkovsky in Montreal saying, I want to play like Brady Tkachuk. So you've got Tom Wilson, you've got the Tkachuk brothers. Like, you still have those types along the way. But to your point, Nazem Kadri was that guy with the Leafs. Okay, he just kind of went too far in two consecutive playoffs. But Yeah, I agree with the caller. I don't know what the 2025 version quite is, but yeah, those were huge pieces in the Pat Quinn era, and in Toronto, we don't have them right now.
That era of Leafs hockey has a real hold on all of Leafs Nation, myself included, where that the type of team that was, it was just a lot of. Oh, go ahead.
It's just to make a point. It's because it's up against the last few early exits that didn't show much of that at all.
That's the thing. Like, I've often said that the way this Leafs team has played over the years is an awful matchup for what a lot of Leafs Nation really loves in terms of hockey players. And, you think of the people who have been glorified by Leafs Nation. It's a lot of Tucker. It's a lot of Roberts. It's a lot of, Domi, like Ty, I'm talking. It's just this era of Leafs hockey hasn't provided a ton of that. And, Gary Roberts and this team would be great.
Well, they knocked Ottawa out the way Toronto's been knocked out the last 5-6 years.
They were upset teams.
I got to give Max a little credit in Boston, and of course we can all sit there and nitpick and go bad penalties, stupid penalties. You can label that on any player, but he does show a side that has been missing.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
he cares.
Even the little cross checks in the neutral zone where it's like, sometimes it's like, did you really need to do that? And if you want to constantly send a message that we're going to be hard to play against, the answer is yes. Yeah. You do have to do that every once in a while.
Yeah, it's a different spice. It's when he.
And I think it did have a factor, the way he played on the edge and the way he was still in guys' faces. And, yeah, it had something to do with the ability to come back against Boston this week.
Let's go to Kinley in Victoria.
All week, people have been talking about how they're trying to grow the game with the Kachucks and their second-place loser tour. To be honest, I just don't care. Why should we even grow the game? Hockey shouldn't be anywhere south of Boston, and it annoys me that recent years, the most successful teams have been the ones in small fan bases. And I don't really get who's excited about the idea of putting a team in Houston. I recall the last time we won anything, there were only 6 teams in the league, and now people are talking about putting in over 32. Also, you can't really grow the game anywhere outside of America. And I don't really need America to get any better at hockey. Anyways, my question is just, why are we trying to grow this? Thanks for your time. Go Leafs.
It's a fantastic call. I totally agree. Shrink the game.
This is where you cue the scene in Wall Street with
Michael Douglas?
Gordon Gekko going, greed.
Yeah.
Greed is good.
Yeah. Well, and if you're in a Canadian hockey market quite often, you go, hey, I'm fine with just let's just have our 7 teams or what and let's or 6 whatever and let's have 5 from the States, the old original 6 teams, 4 the whatever. But that just like let's have Sidney Crosby on some other team so we see him on the playoffs, right? So there's no problem being selfish. And that, but it's not going to happen. And to your point about growing the game, there's no other markets in Canada that you're going to be able to get the kind of expansion fee that Seattle and Vegas paid. And
it's growing the pocketbooks. It's not growing the game.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's also when people figured out a commissioner in general in sports is the owners are his boss. The old baseball idea was, kind of for the love of the game and all that stuff. All sports come down to the business side, and here, in this particular case, the players are partners now. It's spelled out how they're partners in growing the game.
The one thing that the Four Nations tournament did also is show like the distance between having a game with so much amazing talent on the ice to now the product on an average night, comparing the talent on the ice today. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be the tricky part as we continue to go from 32 to 34 teams in the near future. Is like the product is suffering because you do not have the talent to withhold that type of hockey that we saw last week. And it will never hit that level. I know we can still be entertained with a Stanley Cup final and communities and cities can get excited for their championship, but it won't hit that level.
Mm. Yeah, and places like Nashville and Columbus and that, hockey fans there get to embrace hockey, right? which part of it, and again, like the caller says, why should we care? But that's part of in growing the game, and what's neat is a new market.
But in saying that, we've got an outdoor game this weekend. Everybody says it's tired and old, and yet they're going to talk about 90,000 people going to Ohio Stadium between Columbus and Detroit, and
a game that matters.
There's another.
Yeah, that's true.
But there's another side of like still a demand out there. You know, as much as we don't think it's growing, maybe that's a great example of how it is growing.
I mean, if the Florida Panthers find their way into the final again this year, it'll be 6 straight years where the Eastern Conference representatives from Florida shrink the game. It's not an advantage, though. The taxes aren't an advantage. There's no way. It's only 6 straight years they've represented the Eastern Conference from Florida.
Oh, you got one more we're going to see again?
Sorry. Let's go to Will from Sydney, Australia.
Oh.
So now that the Four Nations is finished and the regular NHL season is back, we have all this growth in the game, and I now have mates who are exposed to hockey for the first time. So my question for you guys is, how would you recommend people who have no geographical allegiances pick their team? I have lots of family from Toronto, so that's how I was suckered into supporting the Leafs, but should I try doom others to the same fate, or should I recommend a team that will probably win now, or just draw a name out of a hat? So yeah, let me know. Love the show, boys. Thanks.
Gord, will you go home tonight and put a shrimp on the bobby?
You know, I'm gonna Google. I'm gonna Google what was the kangaroo show? I love that out of
Captain Kangaroo.
No, out of Buffalo. Skippy. Wasn't it the Bush Kangaroo? Yeah.
Buddy, you're like you might as well be 100 years older than me right now.
I know, but anyway, Skippy the Bush Kangaroo was a good Australian show, so I might Google. I'll put some. I'm not gonna put some shrimp on the barbie. And so, what's he saying about?
If you're recommending,
the hook?
if you're recommending somebody,
Yes,
to cheer for a team,
what is the hook?
Who would you recommend for them to cheer?
Yes,
like if you're jumping on now,
who or what's going to hook a person to become a hockey fan?
Going to a game. Okay, I think part because if you the vibe or whatever it may be, and then you find your own. Like new fans quite often are hooked by someone that we don't think about because they're looking at the game differently. So you don't have to say, okay, Connor McDavid or Nathan McKinnon or Austin Matthews.
Yeah.
I know just about if you go to a game and like it, you kind of grow it organically.
My nephew Thomas Flack won a championship with the Melbourne Mustangs.
Wow.
Yes,
they will. I mean.
Really?
Yeah.
In England, they love their hockey, and it's physical. Like, they love it. They love the fights and everything. I mean, there's you talk about growing in North America. We're talking world-wise. I know it's not anywhere close to the NHL level. Yeah. That's a neat story.
And Kerry Goulet has been over there for many years now. And it is popular. And we saw the NHL do an exhibition game there. So,
yep.
The great sport from there is Aussie rules football. I've been up late enough at night to watch.
That's their sport.
It's great.
Buddy,
it's fantastic. They're warriors down there.
No, they're just nuts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I like Carlton. I don't know if you'll know what that means, but I like Carlton. The Baggers.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to recommend a team, just choose the Leafs, because if you choose the Leafs and they win, there'll be nothing like it.
If you find a new sport, do you not kind of glom onto the best team?
Well,
or the best player.
Just Google McDavid for like 2 seconds.
Well, he's a hockey fan. He watches our show. He knows who McDavid is, obviously.
You can't help but become an Edmonton Oilers fan.
But he's in a funk right now.
Yeah, he is.
It's a bad time to Google McDavid. maybe wait a week. Wait a week.
I will say, after watching the first 8 minutes of that Canada-Sweden game and cheering for McDavid for the first time in my life, I was like, you know what? I think I'm an Oilers fan now.
Yeah.
All right.
Google Clayton Keller today.
Do not go anywhere as we kick it into our national hour where Gord Stellick will lead us with what's wrong with Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers. And, of course, Doug MacLean back on Off the Rails Friday. The Kypreos. Sammy McKee, Gord Stellick, right back at you. Welcome back in to the Real Kyper and Bourne show on our national hour. We are live on Sportsnet 650 in Vancouver, Sportsnet 960 in Calgary. This hour of Real Kyper and Bourne brought to you by Bet365. It's Off the Rails Friday, which can only mean one thing. Doug MacLean will join us in a few minutes to completely drive it in the ditch. Just prior to coming on air, Gord Stellick here, Sammy McKee. You asked me how Doug is doing, but you really sounded concerned.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, he likes to stay involved. We all like to stay involved.
How's Doug?
Yeah, true. I did say it that way.
You really did.
Yeah. Is he in a home?
We're going to find out really soon.
Good.
Because in all honesty, I haven't got a clue. Like, he could be the happiest guy, or he could show up in a minute with the biggest chip on his shoulder.
Oh, yeah. When he enters a room, you kind of know, right? What his frame of mind is.
I think he's got potentially another book maybe coming. I don't know, which is scary because that means.
What can he milk out of anymore?
I don't know.
What?
I don't know what he could milk.
Working with Jack Armstrong? That's where it started. Remember whether they did that show? What was it called again? What's the show called?
Pucks and Balls, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I don't know what it was called.
What? No, but it was. But they did.
You guys going on?
They did that's.
We're gonna find out.
That's his start on the Fan. As far as a regular host was, whatever that show was called.
Yeah, and we have to ask him about his level of concern for the Edmonton Oilers. 5 losses. Closer game last night in Florida. Better, but not good enough.
Yeah. No, and Knobloch called them a fragile team. I wouldn't have said that last night, but yeah, they're off. They're off. And you go the one time you go, tough teams though, they're playing, but still, you want to put up a better showing when you're the one win away from the Stanley Cup against those kind of teams that you might be playing if you go that deep.
I wouldn't. I feel lucky as a Leaf fan to sit here and say that, it's not. Haven't said this in years past, but watching Stuart Skinner right now makes me very thankful for Anthony Stolarz and Joseph Woll. Stuart Skinner, I think
he made some good saves last night.
He does. He's just. It's not so much as saves that he's made, or it's just bad body language. Looks like he's expecting to be beat on a lot of them. The Schmidt, I think was that ended up the winner, or no, maybe not the winner, but
the Schmidt, Verhaeghe.
The Verhaeghe one, the Schmidt one.
The Verhaeghe one bothered me because it's a 1-on-2.
Shouldn't go in.
And it just shouldn't go in.
So how about the Draisaitl goal?
Oh my God.
Wow. I mean, he's playing phenomenal right now.
It's in itself, it tells you that like it's still a team very dependent on 97 and 29. Mm-hmm. And Leon is as good as ever. Yes, there's a drop off on McDavid. And the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm going, that guy has hit a wall here. And I think if you look back at his last month, including not just the 4 nations, but before, mm-hmm. and the amount of responsibility that they put on his shoulders to promote the 4 nations.
Yeah.
And I'm watching him do every interview and then go back to Gene and push.
Yeah.
And it's like, what did we do to him?
Well, he embraced it.
I know he embraced it, but he's tired, Gord. And then we make him play Thursday night. And then we tell him Friday, jump on a plane and go play at 1:00.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure he hated that Thursday night game, Kipper.
No, it's the turnaround,
yes,
Sam.
That sucks.
Okay.
For sure. But, he loved he played for Canada. He was one of the main guys fighting for it.
That's great.
Yeah, but now I get it.
But then to go back to him and say on Saturday and Sunday, you got to play at 1 p.m.
For sure.
Okay, so let's get some blood out of a stone right now.
That was crazy scheduling. I don't know how the hell they ever thought that was okay.
Okay, from one of the craziest schedules in hockey history to one that really has no schedule, 0 schedule. Let's throw it to Doug MacLean, president, former this, that, and author.
How's Gord?
You know what? Gord just asked, how are you? He said it with some concern.
Are you still working, Gord, or what are you doing? I haven't heard from you. The only time I ever hear you is with Bruce Boudreau. You guys still have the show together?
Anyway, we got to get you on again. I will say when Doug comes on, it tends to rattle cages. we're in a partnership with the NHL, and Doug tends to rattle.
Is your new show called The Sheet?
No.
Oh, okay.
Hey, what was your show called with Jack Armstrong? What was that called?
Are you kidding me?
No, that was
what was it?
Game time.
Game time.
Okay, I wasn't close with. pucks and balls.
It's funny you said that because Jill and Dina are at the golf tournament in West Palm today at the it used to be the Honda Classic. Now it's called the Cognizant or something.
So you mean this, Jack's bride and your bride? You're still friends? Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Well, I got Jack to buy a place in Delray, so they're neighbors of ours. Well, George McPhee's just a 2-minute walk from me, and Ron Hextall's just down the street, and Dale Talon's here. And of course, Jeff Rimmer's here. You know, he's trying to hang out with all of us and be one of the boys. He's trying to be one of the boys. But anyway.
You're making sure that doesn't happen.
So do you guys send group texts that don't include him, and then as he walks by, you duck or anything? Is that what it's like?
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, is he a pain in the ass?
You guys are like the Kachuk brothers, texting each other before the game, and making
group chats, starting fights, starting arguments.
Sorry to interrupt, but the show wasn't called Game Time, Doug. It was called The Game Plan.
Oh, that's how memorable it was for me.
Very memorable.
Yeah. Very memorable.
Okay,
one of the highlights of my career.
I'm going to draw on your general manager and president expertise here.
Oh my God, is Brayden Schenn the next Connor McDavid or what? Listening to you guys a little earlier, I'm thinking, have they watched him play lately? Oh my God. Anyway.
So you want to start there with centers potentially available, and
I look at Brayden Schenn and Laughton. They're both, or is it Laughton?
Laughton.
They're both Laughton. They're both NHL right. They're fours right now. With you, if you've watched them in the last month and a half, they have not been very good. So I'm look. It reminded me when you were talking. I remember in Florida. We went to the Stanley Cup the first year. Then the next year we had a good team, and we brought in Kirk Muller. And I thought, oh my God, this is going to put us over the top. Kirk is going to, and you know what? It hurt our team. It hurt our team. So you got to be careful when you're making these type of moves.
Kurt's behind the bench of Washington right now, and if he's watching it,
I love.
He may have derailed his season now.
Hey, listen, look, the most fun I've ever had in my life was going to a bar with Kirk Muller and Doug Gilmour. The most fun I've ever had in my life. And I was their coach or assistant. I had Gilmour in St. Louis and I had Kirk in Florida. And it was the best night of my life. I mean, bar none. But it just, he and I love Kirk Muller as a player. He just wasn't the right fit for our team at that time.
And Doug,
nothing against Kirk.
There's another variable that you bring up with this trade deadline about these sexy names that really, if you're really watching them, are no longer sexy. And, you still have some that they have a soft spot. And so then whatever Brayden Schenn's value is, Doug Armstrong loves it being talked up, right? It's going to take a boatload, and media experts going to take this, that, whatever. That's a real danger about, just assessing what you're getting in 2025.
And what's his term and what's his dollars right now?
6.5 with, I believe, 3 left. I got to double check it. Sammy, you let me know.
And
that's correct.
And you guys are seriously,
this year and next.
Seriously, you're actually considering this?
But when you talk when you talk about not just the Toronto Maple Leafs, but any market right now, and I'll include the Edmonton Oilers on. This is the year. This has to happen now. How do you weigh as a general manager the difference between doing something and not doing something, just sometimes for the sake of alleviating the pressure?
Then let's talk Rantanen then. Let's talk about him. He's 27 years of age, and he's a star.
In his prime.
And he's 27. He's 27. He's still in his prime. He hasn't had a good run in Carolina, but how good was he in Colorado just before he was traded? So you're the one that brought his name up, that he was going to be available.
Well, I don't know. I mean, they're still going to take a run at signing him, but
sure they are.
Do you like their chances of signing him?
It doesn't sound like he's doing, he's not. He doesn't sound like he's that excited to be in Cary, North Carolina, by the sounds of it. I mean, he's not. I mean, number one, how do you make this deal and not be sure you can get him signed? I know the guy's a genius in Carolina, the GM there. I know he is, but this is a tough deal to make and not have this guy guaranteed that he's going to sign or have rights to talk to him prior to that and be close to having a deal done. And all of a sudden he's going to go to the wire with a guy like this and not get him signed. This could set Carolina back, who, by the way, aren't playing very well right now, too. They don't need another hit to their team.
Would Rantanen be holding up a few things right now with other teams trying to figure it out? And would they run the risk of waiting too long and missing out on some other things?
Well, that's the problem. And, Guy, you like to get things done early. I mean, Jimmy Rutherford's always said that. Berkey's always said that. You try to get things done early, especially if you are a contender. Especially when the Leafs are a contender. By the way, I watched Tampa the other night, and I thought Tampa's going to struggle. And I watched Tampa the other night, and all of a sudden Tampa looked really good. They're not going to be easy in the playoffs, guys. And we know there's a lot of teams playing pretty well right now, but you got them. To me, bringing in, I know the Leafs want a third line center. I get that, but I'm certainly not tying up 3 or 4 years at that kind of money. I'm not doing that.
So on the flip side, being a seller, and you mentioned Tampa, so I'll talk about Stamkos. Like all those players that went to Nashville, or when you're Seattle, it ain't happening there. Chicago, we know about Seth Jones. Would you say, hey, I'm going to go get Stamkos, so I'm going to get Marchessault, so I'm going to get Shea, whatever. Maybe they'll eat part of it. I mean, do you think Barry Trotz is going to say, you know what, this is a team that we're gonna hold firm a bit and go at it again next year? Like what do you think those potentially seller teams are thinking?
Well, what bothered me with the Trotz deal, and I said it on this show months ago, Trotzy, they lost their identity with those acquisitions. Their identity since day one as a franchise was one of the hardest working teams in the league. And they lost their identity. They became too cute and played that way for most of the year. So, I mean, I think they've got to get back to what made them a hard team to play against. And they certainly have. I mean, they have been in spots, but not so much. But the trade deadline, you can do some damage to your team too. And you can become slower, which when I talked about Kirk, that's what happened to our team. We became a slower team. You got to be careful in today's game if you're going to add a Brayden Schenn and it makes you slower as a team. And a guy with 12 goals. Isn't that what he's got? 12? That's $6.5 million.
You're watching and listening to Doug MacLean, former NHL president, GM, and head coach on Off the Rails Friday. So, Mac, typically what happens is that your team would have your scouting meetings just around the new year, and a lot of talk about an up-and-coming trade deadline. You leave those meetings with your scouts in your administration offices thinking that you have some idea going into a trade deadline, and then you lose 5 games in a row, like less than a week, into the trade deadline. How would that might be changing the way Edmonton would think right now between now and Friday, or would it at all?
I'm sure they're a little bit nervous, and it's funny. Watching them a couple of times recently, I don't have them anywhere close to where they were last year as a team. I'm worried about Skinner. Arvidsson was a bad pickup. The kid from Buffalo was a horrendous pickup. I don't like the way they're playing, and Connor and Draisaitl can make it happen. But I mean, you look at Draisaitl, and he's playing with the two Arvidsson and what's the kid from Buffalo that went there?
Yeah, Skinner. Yep.
That's Draisaitl's line. Like the last couple of games. Like, are they serious? A second line? What's Skinner got for production this year? What's Arvidsson got? And they're playing with one of the best players in the NHL.
Yeah, it's not pretty.
It's not pretty. So I'm nervous, and Boucher has not been nearly as good. Skinner hasn't. I mean, he was real good in the playoffs last year at times. I mean, I'm with Speck. Speck can't sleep at night right now. He's so nervous about the Oilers. He's on I think Speck's on medication.
Oh God. Jeez.
So okay, your old stomping ground. First of all, 90,000 people, an outdoor game.
I was fired by 7 teams. What's my old stomping ground, Gord?
Well, okay, figure it out.
Not all of us got to be general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Okay, stomping ground for 20. It's where an outdoor game is being played on Saturday at Doug MacLean's former stomping grounds. Who would think 90,000 people and Columbus and Detroit fighting tooth and nail? And you are a huge part we're talking about selling the game in that hockey area for so many years and what it's come to. And should Columbus and Detroit be active in trying to leave no stone unturned, or do you not want to screw around with what they have going? Because they're both pleasant surprises right now.
You know what? It's really, I'm getting a real kick out of the outdoor game. You know, they're going to have 90,000. There's 10,000 short of a sellout, which is unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
When I think of the number of Kinsman meetings I went to and how many mugs I got for going to speak and try to sell hockey, and it is pretty bizarre. Our business group and myself talked in the early years there. I would say in 2003, how would it ever be if we could get a game at Ohio Stadium with the Detroit Red Wings? How big would that be? And then I see it come to fruition. Not, we didn't ask the league for it, but I remember Mike Humes and myself, who was my business ops guy, talking about a game like that. And to see it happen in Columbus is pretty cool. I mean, there was 700 kids playing minor hockey when I went to Columbus, and there's 8,000 kids playing minor hockey. Now they're producing NHLers and pros almost every year. It's become a great hockey town. And if I'm Don Waddell, I'm trying. I would not want to play Columbus in the first round. I watched them play Dallas the other night, guys. I watched them play Detroit. This is a good hockey team the way they're playing. If Merzlikins keeps it going and they add, you would not want to play them in the first round. Those 2 Russian kids are unbelievable the way they're playing together. Marchenko and the big 6'4" guy. They're not going to be an easy out. Werenski, you guys keep pushing. Who you guys got up for defenseman of the year, Tanev or McKee? I mean, he's right there with Quinn Hughes, guys. The way this guy was,
he's good.
I'm still with Morgan Riley for me.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, I forgot about Morgan.
So, Columbus's stock going up, Ottawa's going down. No Brady Tkachuk. Last couple of games.
Think about this. Tell me what's going on. You give Perron $4 million. Can't play in the league. You bring in Amodio, borderline at best. Gregor, I don't know where he is. Is he hurt? And Ullmark is like, I mean, what's going on? The only time he was happy this year was when they played in Boston and he was hugging Swayman in the morning skate. I mean, what is going on here? And I know Brady's out. Norris is out, Pinto's out, but they've got to make the playoffs. This organization, they have got to make the playoffs. And right now, their best goalie is playing in Belleville. Ullmark's got to get it together here and help them. I want them to make the playoffs.
Are they in desperate need of doing something between now and Friday? You think they can? They're good hockey people there in Steos, but is he ready?
I just listed his acquisition.
Can he do something between now and Friday?
Well, I mean, I think the people in the dressing room are hoping something's going to happen. I got to believe that. Because, Kippy, you were involved in that Ottawa group. They've got to make the playoffs.
Yeah. No, it's important.
It's real important. And the way they're playing right now, and the way Columbus is playing and Detroit have been playing, and the Rangers are up and down, but I mean, it's a dogfight. There's 2 teams going to make it out of about 7 teams. And it doesn't look pretty right now. Now, Omar could change that, I think. I mean, he may be the most expensive backup goalie in the league next season because the kid in Belleville's better than he is. or at least has been playing better.
Now, Doug, you mentioned the 7 stops along.
This show's depressing today. I'm sorry about being so negative. I want to apologize.
You got some time still.
So you mentioned about the 7 stops you've been at. Another variable, and I got to believe it still happens, is whether it's an owner or president. I know you were a president. I heard the Columbus owner very much was hands off. But boy, oh boy, they have loved, trades are sexy. They love sticking their nose into things, and you start getting this pressure about, I want to be seen that I'm doing something. The fans want to see something, whatever. I know if you're more veteran, you don't buy into that. I certainly felt that pressure, I got to say. Yeah. Does that still come into play in 2025?
I'll tell you how hands-on he was. He would phone me, said, I need you to come out and have lunch with me at Double Eagle Golf Course today. We've got to talk about the team. So I would drive out 25 minutes out to Double Eagle, which was his course. His home was right on the property. I'd go in the restaurant, beautiful restaurant. He and I, the only 2 people in the restaurant. And I would sit down ready for this big meeting. And 3 minutes into the meeting, he was sound asleep. And then I would get up and leave and go back to the office. That's how hands-on he was. I mean, the guy was 80.
This is, 80's young, by the way, now.
Is that what you meant by hands-on, Gord?
Well, my owner was in his 80s, and he didn't fall asleep after 3 minutes. He slept in the building. But
Mr. McConnell was a genius. He paid $80 million for the franchise, and I saw the other day it's worth $1 billion. So he wasn't too slow.
Can you leave our watchers and listeners with the idea that this is the best league in the world, and it's run so professionally than guys sleeping on meetings?
I phoned Mr. McConnell. I phoned Mr. McConnell when I heard there was a new franchise going to be in Columbus, and I phoned him and I said, I got through to his office at Worthington Industries, and I said, Mr. McConnell, Doug MacLean, I'd like to talk to you about a job with the Blue Jackets. He said, "Oh, you're the coach that just got fired in Florida." And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I'm not interested in the coach right now." This was 2.5 years before they started. And I said, no, I'd like to be the general manager. So he said, "Oh, okay, let's get together next week for lunch." So I have lunch with him the next week. Then Jill and I go out to his home. He just lived 5 or 10 minutes from me here in Florida. We go out to his home and we have dinner, him and his wife and Jill and I. And at the end of the meal, he calls me aside. He said, "I've decided I'm going to hire you as my general manager. But we're going up to Columbus next week. I'm going to fly. You and I are going to fly up to Columbus next week. And we're going to meet with the mayor and my son and 3 or 4 of my key business people up there. But you can't tell them I've hired you because they think I'm bringing you up there to interview." So I go up and do a fake interview, and they're all wishing me good luck at the end. And I'm thinking, I already got the job. so yeah, it's a top notch. I mean, it is the best league in the world, So that was my interview process.
How would you compare him to an owner like Jeremy Jacobs in Boston? And what would maybe Don Sweeney would be thinking right now going into a trade deadline on a team that is obviously underachieved? But Mac, some devastating injuries as well. Can he hang his hat on that?
Listen, I got to tell you, Mr. McConnell also phoned me at 11 o'clock one night in my office after we just lost at home to Nashville 5-0. And he said, "How you doing?" I said, "Not very good." He said, "Fire Dave King tomorrow morning." I said, "Mr. McConnell, who's going to coach?" He said, "You are." So A-Race and Portsline, the 2 genius writers in Columbus, ripped me because I wanted to coach really bad. Mr. Mack thought I was running a Pee-wee travel team and that I could do president, GM, and coach, So he was hands-on. He wasn't always hands-off. How is Jeremy feeling right now? Look, he is one of the toughest owners in the league. There's no denying that. I love listening to him in Board of Governors meetings because he was just a great resource. He was like a Lou Lamoriello type of resource in a Board of Governors meeting. But he wants to win so bad. I don't know how involved he is right now, but Sweeney would be uncomfortable right now for sure. It would not be pleasant there. And I don't know, do they have any chance of getting in? Any chance? It's in right now. That franchise is reeling.
Just watching them against the Leafs this week, and I'm like, they only have one game breaker right now, and that is Pasternak.
Yeah, again last night. Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
I know, and so yeah, I don't know how involved Jeremy is, but I mean, Jeremy's a tough guy, and I don't know how Charlie is, his son, but who knows? But to me, they're a non-factor right now. They really are, and I sort of said the same thing about Tampa a few months ago, but hey. I'm watching McKee this week, and I'm watching these young, great defensemen in the league. And I watched Tampa the other night, and I said, like, I keep hearing about, these great young defensemen, and I'm sitting there saying, is Hedman? Who would you want ahead of Hedman of all those guys with the way he's been playing for the last month? And so, I mean, I know they're young stars, but Hedman is such a horse. He's such a horse. He went second to John Tavares in that draft, didn't he?
Yeah.
He didn't go first. He went second.
Yeah. Now,
and that was the consensus at that time.
Well,
too.
A guy they thought might go first or second went fourth. Seth Jones. Like you just talked earlier about Brayden Schenn. What you believe his his playing ability is right now. That it's not quite what a lot of other people do. Like, so it seems like he's going to go somewhere. I didn't
say I didn't like Brayden Schenn. I said he reminds me of Kirk Muller. That's what I said.
No, but you also said that his play of late is not kind of commensurate with what some people are depicting,
right,
in your opinion.
Okay, let me rephrase it. He plays like he's a third-line player. That's what he plays like.
Like, I feel we're on Dateline, and you're in the interrogation studio there. What, you want a lawyer? Do you want a lawyer for the rest of this?
I'm not Bruce Boudreau, but I'm trying
he won't be a lawyer, okay?
I'm trying to impress you.
But there's a level of grit out of Schenn.
He didn't answer Jones.
Okay, go ahead.
Seth Jones. Like, what is Seth Jones, 2012? Like, I mean, is it like a Doug MacLean would be making a call kind of thing? Or is Seth part of the problem in Chicago? Or is it like when he's out, he'll go, yeah, he gets a chance to see what he can do,
Well, yeah, I haven't watched. You know what? To be quite honest, when I look and I see Chicago's playing, I don't put the game on. So
that's
I haven't
fair.
really watched so much. But, he was a horse in Columbus, especially early on. He was a great junior in Portland. Look, everybody would want Seth Jones at playoff time because you always need those type of defensemen to be around. So, yeah, I would take a chance on Seth Jones. But then again, you look at the dollars and it's frightening.
Did you catch his comments earlier this week about we aren't any better? I'm paraphrasing. We're not any better than game one. What does that do to the general manager and the coach when they hear a guy say that on his team?
I think I said that to Hitch in Columbus.
Mac, Kyle Davidson, who's still trying to show he's
100% right too, Seth. He was 100% right in his comment. And he could have said, I want Ed here, but he was trying to be nice,
Yeah,
because he wants out, obviously, and it's been ugly there. I watched them fire Luke Richardson, and then I watched their practice the next week, and they're doing passing on the blue lines like a Pee Wee Benham or Pee Wee B drill, and I'm thinking like, what am I watching here? We're teaching passing, anyway. Stationary passing, mind you, not even the horseshoe.
Hey, is Vegas going to go big again? Like Thomas Hertl last year, it's like trade deadline. Okay, expected. Whoa, Thomas Hertl goes to Vegas. It just seems every year they got one in their back pocket.
Like, how many goals have they given up in the last 5 periods? Is it 9 or 10 goals that Vegas have given up? And I'm a little nervous about Vegas. They just look a little sluggish. They look a little long in the tooth right now. I don't have them there. I don't. I did early in the year. They were so hard to play against, but if you've watched them in the last couple of weeks, you're a little bit nervous about them. Didn't they? Who did they give up 5 goals to the other night?
Well, Chicago. They won. They won 7-5, but they gave up 5 to Chicago.
That's right. That's where I saw Chicago.
Mac,
but they look a little. I'm a little nervous about Vegas with the way they're playing right now. I am.
Anything else you want to get off your chest at all? You're good.
Well, George McPhee when I was in Vegas on a book tour out there. I met George at a game, and he told me he thinks there's 11 teams that could win the Stanley Cup this year. And I don't know if he's wrong. I mean, I think there's some teams that are going to surprise at playoff time, and I think some people. I look at Winnipeg. I watch them, and I mean, how good are they? And is Hellebuck going to finally come through for them? He couldn't win the Four Nations. That's a hard assessment. I mean, he's been so good, and Winnipeg have been so good. What are they going to do? I mean, I don't know. They look pretty good right now. They're going to be tough to beat.
And that makes it that
Washington. I mean, both those teams have got something going for them right now. You'd be scared to death to play them in the first round.
I think 11 puts a lot of teams in play here for the trade deadline coming up on Friday. Yeah. So before we let you go, I'm not sure. You're a guy that has really nothing to do, so I'm sure you scroll through your phone on Instagram, throughout the day. Did you happen to catch our very own lovely and talented Gord Stellick on a mechanical bull this week?
I don't follow Gord.
Because I told him yesterday, I think, that, it's a coincidence that we have Doug MacLean on, and he's got a mechanical bull story. Do you not?
Oh, my God. My first training camp with the Panthers were in Greensboro, South Carolina. Dwayne Sutter, my great assistant coach, and Lindy Ruff, my great assistant coach, we go to a country bar. And, of course, Lindy and Dwayne think they're cowboys, because they're from Alberta. Lindy climbs aboard the mechanical bull. Lindy's on IR. He had hurt his groin when he was throwing off the mechanical bull. So I said to Brian Murray the next day, my first practice as head coach, Brian, Lindy's on IR. Lindy got hurt last night. Brian says, what the hell were you guys doing? I said, Lindy got thrown off a bull.
You feel better about that, Gord? That you and Lindy now have something in common?
I think you should all give thanks for my health. The fact that our setup was more like a jumpy castle. So I was on a full second, Doug. And it wasn't, and it took me an hour to get on the bull, which is videoed, and then about a 1 second ride. So anyway, at least I tried it.
I call bull on the 1 second, by the way.
Was that at the Conn Smythe dinner?
No, the Conn Smythe dinner.
Which I've never been, which, by the way, tell Christine and Scott Morrison, I've never been invited to it.
Wow.
Anyway, just maybe mention that.
Okay, well,
he should be honored.
I'm the only guy that's been fired by 7 NHL teams and have never been invited to that banquet.
Well, your string is still intact anyway. That's good.
He'd be
we'll get him next year for sure.
He'd be a little young for the head table, wouldn't he?
But no, he'd be young for the committee. He'd be young for the committee.
Yeah, now, you're too young for the committee.
Well, okay, are you gonna write another book by next year, and you and I can set up a book stand before the dinner starts, and then.
Well, I'm getting pressured to because I think we've hit the 50,000 in sales with draft day, which is
nice.
Pretty not bad.
I didn't think PEI had 50,000 people.
Oh, I know, it's unbelievable. But anyway, I think I'm sort of looking pretty seriously at it. I've been approached to do it, and you're gonna love it, Gord, because I might be able to get you in there because it's. So you want to be an NHL general manager?
Oh,
are you kidding me?
Yeah, I could give you good. I mean, I can't give you longevity, but I can certainly give you a lot of different insights how it goes. So, but Conn Smythe dinner next year for sure. Okay, honestly, because it was a great dinner. It'll be the 75th, and Berkey was pissed that he didn't get invited either. So we'll see you guys together.
Now you need first class flights.
I just got a text. I just barely got a text.
Yeah,
and it says, "How are you?" And guess who it's from? Brian Burke.
Oh.
Every 6 weeks, I get a text from Berkey, and it says, how are you? And I send back, I'm doing great. How are you doing? Nice to hear from you. And then I don't hear from him again for another 6 weeks, and I get a text, how are you? So obviously he's got me on a formatted AI type of thing, and it automatically comes to me every 6 weeks. How are you?
Don't care about the answer. Hey. Once again, great job driving
Gord,
it.
it's great. Gord, it's great to see you. Great to see you. I haven't heard from you in about 2 years since I did the book, and you had me on to fill an hour on your show. But anyway, I haven't seen you. I haven't heard a thing from you, and it's great to see you. And
Okay.
I messaged message delivered.
Kippy, I really appreciate you getting me on.
Listen, whatever I can do to get you another book deal, you just let me know, all right? Doug MacLean, everybody. Say goodbye to him real fast.
See you, Doug.
Take care, guys.
Okay.
Let's go.
We're going to go to break, and then we'll come back with some game time, and we'll read a few texts, right?
Yeah.
590, if you got a few.
Texting him right now. That was just the longest goodbyes ever with Doug.
Oh, it's
I hate
horrible.
a long goodbye.
They're horrible. Horrible. All right, let's go to break. Back after these words. Nick Kypreos, Sam McKee in for the vacationing Justin Bourne, Gord Stellick, and it's Sammy, a little game time.
Game time presented by Bet365. Visit the app for latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. So 3 games on the ice tonight. The Toronto Maple Leafs are in New York to take on the Rangers. Slight favorites at -120. The New York Rangers are underdogs on the other side of the money line, plus 100. Good one in Dallas tonight. The LA Kings visiting the Dallas Stars. The Kings are slight underdogs in that game, plus 110. Dallas Stars are -130 on home ice. And the other game on the ice tonight is the Minnesota Wild are in Colorado to take on the Avalanche. Minnesota, big underdogs in that game, plus 270. Colorado is a -340 favorite in that game. And I quickly wanted to bring up the favorites again, just to check in on the outright favorites for the Stanley Cup this year. We checked on this last week. Not a lot of movement. They still have the Edmonton Oilers as the favorite to win the Stanley Cup on Bet365 at plus 700. Winnipeg Jets come in at second at plus 800. Caps plus 900. Leafs right there with them plus 900, as well as the Carolina Hurricanes at plus 900. Any of that surprise you?
I got a $10 voucher on the Leafs. I had $10 on the Buffalo Bills and $10 on the Leafs before I left a Vegas hotel in August. So I'm 50% done. Yes.
Wow, I love that. And to go down the list here, a team that I think could be actually one of the best teams in the league, the Tampa Bay Lightning at 16-1 to win the Stanley Cup, is a very good number to me. Anyways, that was game time presented by Bet365. Visit the app for latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly.
You know what may be a very underrated move for Tampa Bay was getting Ryan McDonagh back.
Yeah.
And a lot of people thought once the Tampa Bay Lightning got rid of him, he eventually ended up in Nashville, that his best years were behind him. But there's something still works.
Mm-hmm.
Very much so with McDonagh back. And, you know, they gave up Sergachev. They got rid of that contract. And quietly, McDonagh has filled that void for those guys.
You know, it's kind of thing that, to be honest, if you want to call it a mistake, let him go in the first time, but whatever. We're kind of saying, okay, we missed him more than we thought, but also they were stuck with contracts that do something. So they're big enough to bring him back. It also shows the kind of organization they have that he wants to come back. And the Sergachev trade, you know, brought you Geeky, and he's a high first-round pick. So that's the guy they think can replace Stamkos. I know Stamkos plays center and the wing, but just as far as bringing younger players in, I mean, Julien Brisebois had a very intelligent way about going about it, like Steve Yzerman did when he was in Tampa Bay. It's what Vegas does. It's nothing personal. But at the end, an odd man's got to be out. So was Ryan McDonagh. And they kind of pushed a bit, said, well, if you don't, we're going to put you on whatever may put you on waivers or whatever the deal was. So he acquiesced. But yeah, he kind of recognized we're going to lose Sergachev. We're going to gain a lot of money. And there's intangibles. And we've lost Stamkos, who's a big presence. So there's an intangible that McDonagh brings. And you're bang on about. So I think sometimes it's overrated. Like, we got Sammy McKee. Oh, he's great in the room. Well, so's my mom. I mean it in a different way. Just about being a nice person or whatever. You know, just that kind of thing. You know, so it to me, I was kind of lame. Like, what? Don't you want someone to go out and help you win a Stanley Cup instead of all these great guys in the room? But he's a perfect spice.
Do you know who leads the National Hockey League in plus minus this year?
Is it Ryan?
It's Ryan McDonagh. He's plus 36 on the season.
But who cares what he's like in the room if you're plus 36?
Plus 36.
Wow.
I mean, just 19 points in 58 games. You're never going to judge him by his point production. But you look at his career. We talk about plus minus as a people. You can have the conversations on how valuable of a stat it is. When you for your career are plus 282, that's meaningful to me.
Yeah.
That tells me a story about the kind of hockey player you are. Plus 282 for your career. That is a crazy high number.
It's just
and then 9 games in a row. Vasilevsky wants to keep going, and he is kind of saying, okay, Connor Hellebuck and others, I used to be the guy, right? When you talk Vezina Trophy. And he's got numbers. He's got Vezina Trophy numbers up right now. And I don't know if they're going to hit the playoffs like this, but they really have that mojo going together in a big, big way. It was slow at the start. I mean, there were kind of similarities to them in Boston. And you thought, are they both going to be out of the playoffs? Which a lot of teams would like, but they really, there's too much talent there, which they don't have in Boston anymore. There's still too much talent there.
I think a lot of people, myself included, were critical, surprised of them making the Steven Stamkos decision they made this offseason. And I really couldn't believe that they did it. And, you think back to some of the best franchises over the years, specifically the Patriots in football, who always made the cutthroat decision. And, think of the St. Louis Cardinals when they got rid of Albert Pujols and they went on to win World Series after him. Them letting Stamkos go and then bringing in Gensel, who, we watched him at the Four Nations play for USA. Was he their most dangerous forward a lot of the nights? Every playoff, this guy shows up. And he's having a fabulous year this year. He's got 27 goals already. He's a playoff performer. They've done a fantastic. Hagel's been unbelievable.
Hagel,
he's gone to another level. They're a scary team for me.
There's a guy that's been like plus almost 20 in the last 4 weeks.
And he also says it wasn't Gensel in, Stamkos out. It was a whole bunch of things, even on the surface.
They're a dangerous team again.
Okay, let's talk the other one. I've talked to you before about the accordion, a very difficult instrument to find.
Didn't play it when I was a kid. I told you that.
Remember the Schmengi brothers did it, and then
of course, who could
Donnie
forget?
for Dollars in Buffalo, Johnny and Jimmy, the accordion and the drums. So anyway,
who could forget?
The Eastern Conference is like accordion, right? And
okay,
it's been going like this. Well, it's been like this for a while. What about the West? I got to find another accordion, like the West. So last night, Vancouver and Calgary lose. Utah, St. Louis, Anaheim. Like the Anaheim-Vancouver game last night is almost a 4-pointer now. Like I said in retrospect, because they're coming. And the Canucks blew a 2-goal lead. Anaheim beat them. And don't look now, the 9-team race for 8 spots is all of a sudden, accordion effect, becoming maybe a 12-team race. And how does that change in the next week? The mentality of sellers now thinking they may be buyers. I mean, that's a big change over the last, 10 or so days, Kippy.
Did your parents make you play the accordion when you were a kid?
I just only talk about my childhood to professionals. That's all. I cannot go. You know what?
I saw a bead of sweat coming down your forehead.
Yeah, they taught, I learned how to play the piano. Only one problem. We didn't have a piano, right? which is an impediment. So
how did you learn?
My dad couldn't afford it. So we had like a cardboard thing. And then Inga Mraz and Mills Mraz had a apartment over in Roehampton.
Yeah.
And I would take the subway there and play piano twice a week there.
That may be one of the saddest things I've ever heard on the Real Kyper and Bourne
show.
show.
The subway by myself. But I stopped at Garfield and got some candy on the way back at Laura Seacourt. so it was a positive. I didn't know I'd be pouring all this out here on a late Friday.
Honestly, we've so far off the rails here. But
honestly, it explains a lot of things right now.
Well, the accordion's tough to explain.
But no, I'd be lying to you if I told you I was really poring over the Western Conference standings at all times because like you said, it was the 2-team race for the 8th spot.
Take a look now.
St. Louis apparently is trading everybody, and they're 3 points out of the last playoff spot. Anaheim now is at 59 points. They're 6 points back, maybe a little bit more of a long shot. But Utah, like you said, only 2 points back.
Yeah, honestly,
it's crazy.
How about Clayton Keller? There's a quiet, really good hockey player right now. He's closing in on averaging almost 100 points this season.
And he was the one guy the old ownership group committed to. Right? Remember, they committed to nobody except he signed on and that. So it's nice to see. The new owner I think's done a good job. One thing I like, Kippy, he was very loyal to the organization. Like I thought, some people say, oh, okay, this is where half the people get rinsed, right? Quite often someone new comes in, and this guy's been the opposite. And then who was the broadcaster? Was it Shane? Anyway, he found another job because someone got left behind in Arizona. It might have been Shane. I don't know, whatever. But anyway, he took care of everybody. Everybody that wanted to go to Utah, he took care of. And I got a lot of respect for that. I think it speaks volumes.
I don't think there'll be many more U.S. best on best teams that don't include Clayton Keller on it. That's a guy that can really fire it in the net. He's been great for them. So
another reminder that this real Kipper and Bourne brought to you by Bet365. Gordo, what a fantastic week, right?
Well, I'm back Monday too, I think.
You are back on Monday. I think we get JB middle of the week.
Tuesday.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. No.
But,
it's fun. Always enjoy.
You brought it this week, my friend.
Well, to go to the childhood accordion memories. Yeah. That's a lot.
Not only that, we this week we had a doctor segment where you got excellent medical advice for the rash on your ass. Right? From the mechanical bull, right?
That's right, yeah.
But that's been cleared up.
Well, Lindy Ruff had to miss games. He had a mechanical injury.
Yes.
I didn't go on the IR like Doug MacLean explained Lindy Ruff did.
How about this for a text from somebody in Edmonton? I know that because of the 780 area code. Would you trade Stuart Skinner and Evan Bouchard to the St. Louis Blues for Jordan Binnington and Colton Parayko?
Drive them the whole way in a limo.
Yeah. Oh, you would drive Bouchard and and Skinner.
Yes.
Yep.
That's
but that's not happening.
And normally they throw a third round pick in. People always think that a kind of lopsided trade, and then you add a third round pick. Whatever.
Yeah. It was always Connor Brown in a second in Toronto, and they were talking about.
But that's
those
why. Hey, we got another week for this. And it's fun. That's part of being a sports fan. Is you're a general manager of whatever team you like.
There's not a big market if, in fact, that Doug Armstrong is thinking about maybe moving Binnington at a very high point of his career so far.
What does he have? He's got some kind of no move clause.
He's got 20.
Yeah.
And Edmonton's on the list.
That's what I'm saying.
But I also hear he would lift it for a possibility to win a cup with Connor McDavid.
Doesn't surprise me.
But I mean, that's just a big lifestyle change from St. Louis to Edmonton. He's quite happy in St. Louis.
He's got 2 years left. If he was to win another Stanley Cup, he'd be.
I respect that.
He'd be in a terrific position the following year to sign a nice contract as well. But again, what other teams? Carolina needs a goalie, but I don't think he'd lift it to go there. Detroit, could they be in the market, or is it too early for them to go get a goalie now when Talbot's done a
No, I think it's stick with
job.
Talbot. I'm intrigued by
Detroit
the cap
doesn't
space.
seem quite ready right now to go get like a guy like Binnington now.
No, not a goalie.
But Edmonton may.
Yeah, but the fact that just Husso's salary, clearing salary, like the predates quite often a deal that you're trying to find cap space. I have no idea. Are they in on Seth Jones? I have no idea. But whatever it may be, I just get that sense because those teams, one big move can make a huge difference. Like it's a spice on what you have. It's not the be all end all. You got something good going, and you get the right kind of player there. And they haven't. They traded Philip Roenick for a first round pick, right? A year or two ago. So they were doing that more. But I just think the time is right if the right kind of player.
Well, once again, Gord, great job this week, and we'll see you on Monday.
How many trades this weekend?
Friday seems to be the day, right?
Okay.
Because we had JT Miller on a Friday.
So soon. So
let's keep and the other big trade, Rantanen was on a Friday.
Maybe we should start early on Monday.
All right.
Okay.
Our thanks to Doug MacLean as always on Friday. Have a terrific weekend. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We're back on Monday.